So overall, I thought Doctor Who Series 7 was a pretty good series, but there were many aspects of that series which could have been improved on. And so in this video, I'm gonna be telling you my top 5 things that I want to see improved on for Series 8, because I think there are a few aspects of the show that the production team can raise the game on. So my number five pick, my number five pick of what I want to see in Series 8 is for the Master to return, and uh, yeah, we haven't seen the Master for a while. Last time we saw him was in the End of Time, and I think I think it's a good time for the Master to come back. Now, a lot of you are going to be asking, well, should John Sim come back as the Master, or should we have a new regeneration? My answer to that is, can't we have both? I mean, couldn't we, for instance, this is just my idea for, say, Series 8. In the first, we could say start off Series 8 with a two-parter, where the John Sim Master comes back, and then at the end of that episode, the Doctor thinks the Master's dead again, but it actually turns out that the Master survives, but then he has to regenerate, and then in the finale, the Master returns in a new body. And I think that would be I think that would be really cool, because I really do like John Sim as the Master. I really like a lot of people don't really like the manic take on the Master, but I did. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was a good direction to go with the Master, and I think John Sim is a great actor. So I'm glad that I want him to return. I've always wanted him to return. On the other side of that, the Master is supposed to be the parallel to the Doctor. He's supposed to be his like equal in every ways. In every way. So you have you almost have so whenever you have the Master, he's almost like almost the same personality as the Doctor, just evil. For instance, John Pertwee and Roger Delgado were both very kind of reserved, kind of stern, calculating characters, whilst David Tennant and John Sim were both more, energetic, sort of almost manic-like characters. And so I think if the Master is to return, he's going to have to be a character which is good, which will be good juxtaposition to Capaldi's Doctor, who I don't think will really fit with Sim. But it would be nice to see an episode with Capaldi versus Sim. Give Sim one final story to play as the Master, and then just let him. And then let the character change morph into something new. So we could see the final adventure of Russell T Davies's Master, and then Stephen Moffat could create his own Master. I know Moffat isn't really interested in bringing the character back, but I hope he changes his mind, and I hope we do get to see the Master in Series 8. I also don't want to see in Series 8. I also want there to be deaths, and I know that sounds like really, really quite cold. I want to see people die in Series 8, but what I mean by that is, okay, sure, we had characters die in Series 7, but they next to always got brought back to life, or it turned out there was another version of them alive or something. It was almost like, yeah, they're dead, but not for long. Actually, I think that's been a big staple of the entire Moffat era. I mean, just think of Rory. How many times did he die? And if you keep doing this, reverse switch with death, then suddenly death becomes much less, severe, much less real. And that's not only a bad thing for the show, but also it's a bad yeah, it's a bad example for kids who watch the show, because, well, first off, with the show itself, if a character you love, if a character you love dies, but with the previous history of them keeping coming back, then you're not going to care. You're going to be like, well, with Amy and Rory's death, for instance, I was very, very certain that he wasn't going to kill them off. The Moffat wasn't going to kill them off. you know, at least not kill them off by committing suicide and jumping off the building. Because he technically did kill them off by old age, and you know that's not exactly the most horrible thing in the world. And you know, so as soon as that happened, you know, it just took away the whole drama from their death, because I knew that they weren't going to die that way. And so I think just for the show itself, for the dramatic tension, they really need to make deaths stick. You know, you get the same things with comic books, like characters keep on getting brought back, so deaths just are meaningless. And I think a similar thing could happen with Doctor Who. It's also also I was saying it's a bad example for children, because you know, if characters who die keep coming back, then you know, like that might especially little kids who watch the show could have a warped view of death, and that's certainly not something you want to have. That's not something the show should want to be known for. And yeah, I think this whole you know, all these, sometimes the universe, you know, gives back. I think they need to drop it, because it just keeps, and also, you know, it just takes away from some of the darkness in the show, which, you know, think like an episode like Parting of the Ways in Series 1 of the new series. You know, a lot of characters that you grew to like died in that episode. And, you know, I just think if it was a Moffat episode, then Rose, you know, if Moffat wrote that episode, then Rose would have brought everybody on Satellite 5 back to life, and it just would have taken all the gravity away from the episode, gravity from the situation. So the next thing I want to see in Series 8, or rather the thing I don't want to see in Series 8, is no more splits, please, no more split series. I thought, when it was introduced, I thought it was an interesting idea, and with Series 6 at least, it means we had more Doctor Who spread out throughout the year, but with Series 7, the split was just awful. Just really, it made the pacing of the series really poor, because, okay, Doctor Who, you know, for instance, okay, Series 7 Part 1, Doctor Who's back for 5 weeks, you finally get into the swing of it, and bang, you don't get to see it again until Christmas. And then after Christmas, there's even more months until you get to see the series again. And so by the time you get to Name of the Doctor, you don't feel like you've watched the end of a series. You know, you don't feel like you've seen the culmination of a series. You feel like you've seen two shortened series, you know, over the space of 2 years. And yeah, it just really hurt the pacing. I think with Series 6 it works definitely in a better way than it did in Series 7, but I think, you know, they've sort of ruined the potential of the split. I think they just need to go back to form. 13 episodes a year in a solid run with a Christmas special, that's all I ask for. You know, that's all we need. And just, you know, as long as the stories are consistently good, then, you know, I don't mind it. I don't mind if there's only a short space in the year where we get Doctor Who. I'd rather that than a very poorly paced, you know, sort of inconsistent series. And, you know, when you forget about things, like, unless you, for instance, unless you decide to rewatch like Series 7 Part 1 before you started watching Series 7 Part 2, which I'm sure a lot of fans did, but unless you do that, you're going to forget a lot of things that happened in Series 7 Part 1. And, you know, they definitely need to return to form on that. My next pick of what I want to see in Series 8 is more development of Clara's character. Now, I like Clara. I think she's a likable character. I think Jenna Louise Coleman is a very good actress, and, you know, mostly the likability of Clara is from her performance more than the writing, I would say. But as a character, she's very weak. She doesn't feel very three-dimensional to me. She has a few noticeable character traits, but other than that, she seems very standard, very sort of generic. There's nothing really special. Well, there is, but most of that, again, comes from Coleman's performance. And, you know, for instance, I think if you found a screenplay of a lot of her episodes, and you read them without, you know, Jenna Coleman in your head, then they wouldn't read nearly as well. I also think her characterization has been inconsistent in a lot of episodes. Like in Cold War, she's like really afraid, and she doesn't know what to do, and she's worried about what's going to happen. And then suddenly in Nightmare in Silver, she's like this military commander, and it's not as if she's developed. It's not like she's had a character arc which brought her to that place. Because the episode before Crimson Horror, she was nothing like she was in Nightmare in Silver, and you could say that's due to a lot of different writers writing her, but there's never been a problem with the other companions. Or at least most of them anyway. And yeah, you could make a case that because of the mystery, because of her mystery, the Impossible Girl mystery, we couldn't get to know her that well. Otherwise, it would have ruined the mystery, it would have ruined the air of mystery. But now that mystery's been solved, and we know that Jenna Coleman's coming back for Series 8, I think it's time that we need to get to know who Clara is. She needs to have a character arc, and she really, because if we're gonna make the relationship between Capaldi's Doctor and Coleman's Doctor viable, then just better characterization on the writer's part from her. Because Jenna Coleman, I couldn't ask for better from her. She's doing her very, very best, but the writing could be a lot better for her character. And that's not to say, I don't like how she's written in a few episodes. I think in Neil Cross's episodes, Rins Valkerton and Hyde, she's well written there, and in Name of the Doctor I thought she was well written, but in other episodes, not so much. And yeah, that's why I really think they need to. I really think they need to write her better. And the final thing I want to see in Series 8 is the return of two-parters, or at least extend every episode to an hour rather than 45 minutes. Because the main complaint of Series 7, which I totally agree with, is really rushed. Some episodes had really rushed endings. For instance, I'll pull up a few examples. The Power of Three, which I think was up until the very end was actually was a very good episode, a very solid episode, a very enjoyable episode, and it had very good characterization. It didn't really feel rushed. It was well paced until the very end, where they had one of the most cop out endings in the history of Doctor Who, and the Doctor, basically presses his sonic screwdriver and saves the day. I think with another part, if that was a two-parter, or at least just another 15 minutes, that ending wouldn't have been nearly as hackneyed as it was. And the lack of time on that part, for that episode, ruined that episode, which could have been, a classic. That could have been remembered really fondly, but unfortunately, it never will. A lot of other episodes in Series 7, kind of lose out because of the time limits. I thought A Sign of the Daleks, if they had more time, they could have showed some of the more. They could have given more screen time to some of the classic Daleks, and more of the fans would have been pleased. I think in the Angels Take Manhattan, so just 50 minutes at the end, more on that episode, then we could have had a proper ending to Rory. I think, in Nightmare in Silver, they could have done more to, they could have given more screen time to the Cybermen, and so on and so on. And also with the loss of two-parters is the loss of great cliffhangers, and I really don't understand, in the show's 50th year, Doctor Who, which is a show famous for cliffhangers, which is really famous for its, sometimes fantastic, sometimes ludicrous, but always the same shocking cliffhangers. I don't understand. In the show's 50th year, they decided, no, we're going to get rid of cliffhangers entirely. I mean, what a disservice to a show which was always known, a show which was in a serial format where there was a 4-part episode, so you'd have three cliffhangers in one story. And I think, and some of the show's best moments are from the cliffhangers. The end of part 3 of the Case of Androzani, the end of the cliffhanger at the end of The Empty Child, in Human Nature. There's just so many great cliffhangers, and Series 7 really loses out from that. And I'll show you a main, really big example of why we really need cliffhangers again. The John Hurt reveal that made everyone so excited, and not just because it's the 50th, but because we were left looking forward to something. And that, I think that really proved that we need cliffhangers back. Now I'm not gonna say every episode needs to be a 2-parter, but because some episodes really don't need more than 45 minutes. I think The Bells of St. John works perfectly in its time. I think The Bells of St. John and The Name of the Doctor works really well in their time limits. So not every episode needs to be a 2-parter, but I do think when Series 8 comes along, the return of 2-parters is absolutely necessary. But what do you think? Tell me your top 5 things that you want to see in Series 8. Please comment in the comment section below, and please subscribe if you want to hear more. If you want to see more videos from me. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned.